We just landed a Felder KF 700 SPO, handle a huge amount of solid oak stock. Today, I'm gonna show you the full unboxing and assembly of this beast. It showed up in two pieces. First, there was the main unit and all the bells and whistles, tipping the scales at about 1,500 pounds, which is around 700 kilograms. Then we had the sliding table, a beast in itself at over 200 pounds or 100 kilograms. 6 years ago, before I upgraded my shop, I was weighing my options for a new saw and a shaper. My fast tool router and track saw just weren't cutting it anymore. They couldn't keep up with the demands of the work I was doing. Even years ago, I had my eyes on a Felder KF 700 panel saw, but I just wasn't ready to make the jump yet. I figured the beefiest jet shaper on the market and a 10-inch jet cabinet saw would breeze through thick, solid stock, but as it turned out, their capabilities were pretty limited. Even with a 5 HP motor, the saw just couldn't hack it when it came to ripping through thick oak and maple. Plus, the lack of a sliding table and an outrigger on the shaper made working the ends of long lumber pieces a total pain. That's why, years later, I circled back to the problem. After analyzing all those past frustrations, I finally decided to make the move to Felder equipment. This time, I pulled the trigger on the KF 700 combo unit. I went with the 7 kilowatts motor, which is nearly 10 HP, and a 3,200 millimeters over 125 inches cutting length. In this one compact setup, you're getting two powerhouse machines, with the added bonus of a full-length slider and a long list of handy add-ons. The machine goes through a rigorous inspection at the factory in Austria. They fully assemble it, test all the functions, align the sliding table, and dial in all the angles before tearing it down for shipping. This means that once it's back together, it's about 95% ready to go right out of the box, with virtually no downtime for calibration. Getting the machine off the pallet was a whole ordeal in itself. I didn't want to waste half the day building a ramp for the pallet jack, so we decided to go old school and enlist the help of 4 absolute units, real-life Herculeans. I'll drop a link to a short here, where you can see them move 2 machines totaling about 3,000 pounds off their pallets in literally 10 minutes. You've got to check it out, it's quite a sight to behold. A quick word on shop size. If you're tight on space, you really need to dial in your floor plan. You've got to crunch the numbers early so you don't run into any clearance issues during the install. When picking the spot, I calculated the distance from the walls to the center and the edges of the blade, adding a 300 millimeters, about 12 inches buffer on each side just to be safe. But here's the kicker. You have to remember that you can't just drop the sliding table on from above. You need enough room to slide it horizontally onto the mounting brackets fixed to the machine base. On this side right here, we just couldn't get it to slide in. We were a few inches short on space, so we had to pivot. It was time for plan B. We ended up shoving the lathe out of the way, which gave us just enough room to slide the table in from this side. It was a tight squeeze, but it worked. Lesson learned. Don't calculate your space from the blade. You need to look at the edges of the cabinet, specifically these brackets right here. That's where the table actually starts its journey when you're sliding it on. As long as you've got a pallet jack, you can manage even in a tight space by repositioning the machine as needed to get the clearance you need. I also want to give a special shout out to Alex from Felder Technical Support. He was a huge help throughout the process. Alex made quick work of the assembly, sharing expert tips as he went. The whole process wrapped up in about 8 hours. Now, let's talk about the machine itself. I'll be processing rough sawn oak, specifically 1 and 2 inch thick boards in 10-foot lengths. To handle that kind of heavy, raw material, my top priorities were the 7 kilowatts motor, nearly 10 HP, and The 3000, 200 millimeters or 125-inch slider. I hate dust, and a standard blade guard lets too much of it escape, regardless of how powerful your extraction system is. That's why I opted for the overhead extraction hood. It took a lot of time and resources to set up, and I really hope it lives up to the expectations. Unfortunately, it's not possible to retrofit complex accessories on this machine. Most of them must be factory installed. That's why I decided to install digital readouts on the outrigger fence and the rib fence, and for better precision and speed with angles, I added the degree indexing system or the Grad-Raster-Index. Regrettably, the laser cutting line indicator found on the Format 4 line isn't available as an option for Felder. To my surprise, it came with a power feeder mount. It's a very clever system, and I'm glad it's included. I plan to position my jointer perpendicularly to the saw, which will allow me to use the power feeder with the saw, the shaper, and the jointer. This setup basically turns 3 separate machines into one high production workstation. For added convenience and speed, I also ordered a set of pneumatic clamps. They are a game changer. They save a massive amount of time on securing workpieces and provide more than enough clamping pressure for any type of material. To accurately set the blade or spindle height, it's great to have these analog dial indicators. They allow for fine-tuning the height with a precision of up to 0.1 millimeters. A few words about the shaper unit. Just like the saw, everything here is built to perfection. Combined with the power feeder and the outrigger system, there's hardly a task it can't handle. It's a serious setup for serious work. While you can rip up to 3,200 millimeters on the sliding table when sawing, that capacity drops to 2,700 millimeters or less for the shaper. This is because the spindle is offset to the left by more than 400 millimeters relative to the saw blade. To complement the standard shaper setup, I ordered a high-speed router spindle with a set of 8, 10, and 12 millimeters collets